Chosen one. You did not stumble onto this message by accident. Heaven placed it before you. The silence you've been carrying, the unanswered prayers, the hidden battles nobody else saw, they were not wasted. They were a test. Like a seed buried in the darkness of the soil, you were hidden. Like Joseph in the prison, you were waiting. Like David in the field, unseen but not forgotten. Your silence was not emptiness. It was preparation. You have felt the weight of isolation. You wondered if God still heard you. You questioned if heaven had gone quiet. But what you did not know is that every moment of silence was a refining fire. Every unanswered prayer was a hammer shaping your destiny. Every delay was heaven's way of writing strength into your spirit. And now, the silence is breaking. Now, heaven begins to speak clearly. You are standing at the threshold of revelation, where what was hidden will be revealed. The mystery will turn into clarity. The whispers you could not interpret will now become unmistakable signs. Stay with me until the very end of this message, because there is one revelation, the final revelation, that most chosen ones miss. But once you hear it, it will change the way you see your entire journey. It will unlock the reason behind your battles, your silence, and your survival. If your spirit is already bearing witness to this word, I invite you right now, as an act of faith, to like this message, to subscribe, and to type 777 in the comments. Not as routine, but as a declaration. 777 is the number of divine alignment. When you write it, you are declaring, I am aligned with heaven's plan for my life. Chosen one, prepare yourself, because the silence has ended, and heaven is about to speak to you. The silence you endured was never abandonment. It was a divine test, a furnace refining your soul, stripping away illusions and false identities. Have you noticed how God's greatest works are born in hidden silence? Joseph, forgotten in prison. Moses, 40 years in the wilderness. David, tending sheep in obscurity, yet already anointed. You were hidden not because you were rejected, but because you were selected. The soil is silent before the seed breaks through. Heaven placed you there to prepare you for unveiling. Silence became your teacher. It stripped distractions, forced you inward, and tested your faith when no prophecy arrived, when no hand reached out. Yet you endured. That means your faith was not built on applause or recognition, but forged in silence, unshakable. The Bible says in Psalm 66:10, For you, O God, tested us. You refined us like silver. That was your silence, a furnace of purification. But silence hurts. You watched others advance while you stood still. You asked, God, why me? The truth is, you were hidden because your calling was too sacred to be exposed too soon. Silence was protection. Had you been revealed earlier, the weight of your destiny would have crushed you. And here's the mystery. Silence was also heaven's language. While you thought nothing was happening, angels were moving. While you felt nothing, your roots were stretching deeper. Remember the seed. It cracks open unseen, in the dark soil. That was you. You broke in silence. You grew in silence. And now heaven declares, it is time to rise. How did you survive? Because something in you refused to die. Even when faith hung by a thread, that thread was tied to eternity. The Spirit Himself interceded with groans too deep for words. You were never abandoned. You were tested, and you passed, because here you are, still breathing, still seeking heaven's voice. The test revealed you, but silence was only the beginning. What follows silence is heaven's unveiling. And when breakthrough begins, the battles intensify. The enemy notices. That is why the storm was waiting. The war you faced was never ordinary. It was proof of your destiny. Stay with me, because in the next part, we uncover why your hidden battles raged so fiercely and why you felt attacked in ways no one else could explain. You need to hear this clearly. The silence was a test, yes, but the battles you faced in the shadows, that was invisible proof of your calling. You wondered why attacks came at night, why dreams felt invaded, why fear pressed in when no one else understood. It wasn't weakness, it was spiritual war. The enemy saw something on you that even you could not see. Heaven had already placed a seal upon your life. That mark made you visible in the spirit realm. Hell doesn't waste arrows on the ordinary, it only wars against the chosen. Think of David, still a shepherd boy with only a sling. The enemy sent Goliath not against an army, but against destiny. Giants rise to silence voices before they discover who they are. The Bible says in Ephesians 6:12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, authorities, and powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." That explains the betrayals, sudden rejections, and misunderstandings. They were echoes of an unseen war. Notice how your darkest battles came right before breakthrough, right before connection, suddenly rejection, right before peace, suddenly anxiety. That is not coincidence, it is warfare. Yet here you are. The fact you survived proves the war did not destroy you. Yes, you cried in secret. Yes, you felt crushed. But a whisper urged you. Keep going. That whisper was God's Spirit keeping you alive. Remember Job. Heaven and hell watched as he lost everything. The enemy believed Job would curse God and die. Yet he remained, broken but not destroyed, wounded but not abandoned. His story became a testimony, and so is yours. Have you noticed your battles don't look like others? They feel targeted, strategic. That's because they are. Hell studied you and saw your future before you did. It tried to stop you before you awakened to it. But the attacks you faced were not weakness. They were confirmation. Resistance only comes when you're moving in the right direction. Do you recall when Jesus was born? Before he spoke a word, Herod sought to kill him. Why? Because even in infancy, he carried destiny. That is why attacks came early in your life, because your very existence is a threat. But now the war is shifting. What once tried to break you has revealed the strength placed inside you. The enemy is terrified because you know who you are. The Bible declares in Isaiah 54:17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." It does not say weapons won't form. It says they will not win. Take this to heart. You were not weak for being attacked. You were marked, and the battles were the evidence. Every sleepless night, every whisper of fear, every arrow of rejection, none of them canceled your destiny. And here is the powerful truth. If silence was the test and the war the confirmation, then what comes next is revelation, that you carry the mark of the chosen. Stay with me, because in the next part, we will uncover why rejection followed you, why rooms shifted when you walked in, and why others sensed something different long before you did. There is something about you that cannot be explained in natural terms. You've felt it your entire life. People notice you but don't know why. Some are drawn to you. Others avoid you without reason. You carried rejection, jealousy, and misunderstanding, not because of what you did, but because of what you carry. That is the mark of the chosen. When heaven sets you apart, the spiritual realm recognizes you before you recognize yourself. Your presence unsettles what is not aligned with God. Favor on your life provokes both blessing and opposition. Think of Moses descending from Sinai. Exodus 34:29 says his face shone because he had spoken with the Lord. He didn't notice, but everyone else did. Some were drawn, some were afraid. That's how the mark works. It radiates beyond your awareness. This is why you never fit in. Why circles rejected you, why whispers followed you, why you always felt different. The mark makes you stand out even when you try to blend in. David was overlooked, left in the field when Samuel came to anoint a king. Yet the oil flowed only for him. He carried kingship before the throne touched his head. The mark was already written into his destiny. The same with you. The crown has already been spoken over your life, and hell knows it. That is why you faced unfair opposition. That is why you carried heavier burdens. The mark makes you a target, but also unstoppable. But understand this. The mark is not only a sign of calling, it is a weight of responsibility. You cannot live casually. You cannot compromise where others compromise. What rests on you requires deeper surrender, purity, and obedience. First, Peter 2:9 says, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession." That means you are set apart. You cannot be ordinary, even if you try. This explains your journey. Why doors closed. Why relationships ended. Why jobs or dreams fell apart. It wasn't failure, it was preservation. The mark guarded your alignment with heaven. Think of Joseph, rejected, sold, falsely accused, imprisoned. To others it looked like a curse. In truth, it was the mark guiding him through every injustice into the palace. The same hand has preserved you. The mark ensured you survived losses, strange turns, and hidden protection. But here's the mystery. The mark is not always celebrated. Sometimes it provokes hostility. Sometimes it isolates you. But do not resent it. The mark is heaven's fingerprint on your spirit. Proof you are not ordinary. You are radiant. You are set apart. You carry God's signature. And now comes the question. If silence was the test, if the war was the confirmation, if the mark is the proof, then what happens when heaven decides to speak directly into your life? When whispers turn into a clear voice, when visions become undeniable instruction, that is the next step. The silence is breaking, the mark is glowing, and heaven is about to speak. Stay with me. In the next part, we uncover how God speaks now, through signs, numbers, dreams, and divine interruptions, leaving no doubt your time has come. For so long, silence was your companion. It was heavy and confusing, but that season has ended. Heaven is speaking now, and the voice of God is clearer than ever. At first, it came as small stirrings, a dream you couldn't forget, a number repeating everywhere, a phrase or song echoing in your spirit. These were not random. They were drops of rain before the downpour. Heaven always whispers before it thunders. Remember Elijah on Mount Horeb. He expected God in wind, earthquake, and fire. But 1 Kings 19:12 says, "After the fire came a gentle whisper." That whisper carried more power than the storm. That's how God spoke to you. You expected something loud, impossible to miss. Instead, He trained your ear with whispers and subtle signs. If you could discern them, you would be ready for the thunder. And now the whispers grow louder. Dreams become instructions. Signs turn to confirmations. What was vague becomes undeniable. Sometimes, God interrupts your plans. A door suddenly closes. A relationship ends. A path collapses just as you were about to step forward. Not punishment, but redirection. Rejection was protection. Think of Jonah. He ran from his assignment, but a storm redirected him and a fish carried him back. What looked like chaos was actually God saying, "Not this way. Walk in the path I prepared." That's why storms came in your life. They weren't punishment, but guidance. Heaven speaking through circumstances, through interruptions, through closed doors. Isaiah 30:21 declares, "Whether you turn to the right or the left, your ears will hear a voice saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" That voice is speaking now, and it cannot be ignored. Pause and reflect. What signs keep repeating? What dreams return again and again? What nudges refuse to leave you? These are not coincidences. They are heaven's language. But remember, clarity demands obedience. It is not enough to hear, you must respond. Think of Abraham. God said, "Leave your country, go to the land I will show you." He didn't just hear, he moved. His obedience unlocked covenant. In the same way, the instructions arriving in your life are not random. The people crossing your path are not accidents, they are divine alignments. This is your season of clarity. The silence has shifted into revelation. Soon you will no longer question if it's God or just your thoughts. His voice is becoming undeniable. But here is the deeper truth. Everything you've discerned so far, The whispers, signs, interruptions has been preparation for one greater revelation, not only about where you are, but about where you are going. Stay with me because in the next part, we will uncover how your entire journey, the silence, the battles, the mark, and even the whispers, has always been pointing to your destiny. Up until now, you've seen only fragments. The silence tested you. The battles confirmed you. The mark set you apart. The whispers trained your ear. But now comes the greatest unveiling, the revelation of destiny. This is heaven's declaration. Your journey was never random. Every scar, every tear, every delay has been shaping your assignment. Your survival is proof you were preserved for purpose. Your days are not accidents. There is a throne prepared, a place of influence only you can fill. Look at Joseph. The pit wasn't the end, prison wasn't the end, betrayal wasn't the end. Every chapter pushed him toward the palace. Genesis 50:20 records him saying, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Destiny reinterprets pain. What tried to bury you actually planted you. Your life is prophetic. Scars are not signs of defeat. They prove you were shaped for more. Tears watered the soil of your purpose. Loneliness carved space for God's presence. Even in childhood you felt it, the sense of being different, of not belonging. That was heaven whispering. You are not ordinary. You were meant to carry light into darkness. Destiny is not about someday. It unfolds now, in the midst of your journey. The crown did not make David king. He was already chosen in the pasture. The resurrection didn't make Jesus the Son of God. He was the Son even in the wilderness. In the same way, your destiny is active today. Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future." Your calling is sealed. Your future is written in heaven's ink, but destiny is not passive. The throne is prepared, but you must walk toward it. Prophecy requires obedience. The greater the calling, the deeper the refining. The brighter the light, the darker the opposition. That is why your journey has been so intense. Now the shift has come. The testing season ends. The unveiling season begins. Destiny is speaking now. But here is the mystery many miss. Destiny is not about recognition, but surrender. It is not what you gain, but what you give. Your throne is not for self-exaltation, but for service. Jesus carried authority over storms and sickness, yet his greatest act was the cross. Destiny transforms suffering into healing for others. That's why you survived. Your story is not only yours, it is testimony that unlocks others. Your scars become sermons. Your breakthrough becomes someone else's deliverance. So let this truth settle deep. You are not chosen just to survive, but to serve, to carry a mantle, to shift atmospheres, to transform lives. And now, as heaven speaks clearly, the question remains, will you embrace the weight of your calling? Will you walk boldly into the destiny prepared for you? Because the silence is over, the battles are shifting, the mark is glowing, and your destiny is here. Stay with me. In the conclusion, we will uncover the missing key, the truth that seals your entire journey. Your preparation was never punishment, but preservation. Chosen one. We have walked through the silence. We have stood inside the invisible war. We have uncovered the mark that rests on you. We have heard heaven whisper, and we have seen the unveiling of destiny. But now comes the greatest revelation of all. The one truth that makes everything you endured make sense. Chosen one. Your preparation was never punishment. It was preservation. Every delay was protection. Every closed door was mercy. Every rejection was redirection. Every battle was training. Heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was guarding you. God was not silent because he forgot you. He was silent because he was shaping you. You were hidden because you are holy. You were tested because you are trusted. You were refined because you are radiant. You are chosen, not by accident, not by chance, but by divine design. The enemy tried to convince you that the silence meant abandonment, but heaven now declares the silence meant assignment. You were being equipped in secret so you could stand in public. You were being prepared in darkness so you could shine in the light. And now, chosen one, heaven speaks clearly. The voice you once strained to hear is now undeniable. The path you once questioned is now opening before your feet. The future you once doubted is now being sealed by God Himself. The Bible declares in Romans 8:28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." That is your verse. That is your banner. That is your life. Chosen one, let us seal this with a declaration. Place your hand over your heart and speak these words with me. I am chosen. I am preserved. I am aligned with heaven. My silence was my training. My war was my confirmation. My mark is my proof. My destiny is my reality. I step into it now. Take a deep breath, chosen one. Because everything has shifted. The silence is broken. The war is defeated. The mark is glowing. The destiny is revealed. And heaven is speaking clearly. If this word resonated in your spirit, do not let it pass quietly. Seal it in faith. Like this message. Subscribe, so you remain connected to the flow of heaven's voice. And type in the comments, Amen. Not as routine, but as a prophetic declaration that you are aligned, awakened, and ready. Chosen one. This was not a coincidence. This was a divine appointment. You did not stumble here. You were guided. Heaven has spoken. Now it is your time to walk in clarity, in courage, and in calling. The silence is over. The assignment has begun.